Hello traders, John at StockBookie.com. Today we're looking at the SPY, the IWM, the Qs, the DIA, the IYT, the USO, the UUP, and the GLD. We file the daily, weekly, monthly timeframes. We use technical analysis here at StockBookie.com. Go to our website, sign up for a free membership for more videos like this, live streaming action, email alerts, trade ideas, a little bit of education. So let's get right into the daily SPY. We closed a little bit below the 20 moving average. I believe we did have a dividend payout today and pulled it back, $1.45. No big deal. Still above the moving averages except for the 20. We barely closed. If you look at the SPX though, we are still above the moving averages, so nothing wrong here. Slight pullback, but still strong stance. So you still have to respect the indexes. But again, we'll be watching next week to see, this is slightly bearish here. Again, the SPX was a little bit more on the bullish side. Weekly chart still closed above the moving averages. Tight pattern here, starting to go sideways, but we're trying to get above these trend lines. If we do, 242.39, 252.14 could be possibly in the cards. We're going to wait for more consolidation to see if this thing can move up. We are holding the 250 retrace, so nothing wrong with the markets. Volume was 88 million on the SPY, pretty much light, but that was after hours action too. It's got to keep an eye on that. The IWM, on the other hand, let's go to the daily real quick. Daily, we got back above the 20 MA. Gosh, it was looking a little bit weak here, setting up, but I told you guys we need more time to see if this thing sets up, and boom, right back above. Closes above the 20 at the end of the week. Options X fills the gap, stops in its track, and going to try to make another run for this high. 140.86 was the all-time high. Let's see if we could blast through that and then continue higher. If we do, then look at the even numbers, 141, 142, 43, 44, and then possibly 145 if the markets keep going. Who knows where this market can go. It's getting a little crazy. But you know what? We came back down, filled the gap, chopped around, bounced right back up. The other reason why we bounced up was the 20 MA on the weekly chart on the IWM. And we held the trend line when this thing was actually bouncing up and down. So nothing wrong again, still above the moving averages. Volume's okay, but we'll keep an eye on this next week to see if we possibly go up and through the highs, or do we actually turn around and come back and make new lows coming back next week. Let's go into the Qs. Qs again, nothing wrong. Trying to make it above that all-time high. Came back in, nothing wrong again. On the weekly, still above the MAs, nothing wrong. Kind of a float up. I'd rather have them a little more of a wedge and then have this come into price. But again, just floating up on light volume. Indexes are okay. And Janet Yellen last Wednesday, raised the rates. Nothing wrong. Markets love it this time. But again, we pulled back a little bit. Still nothing wrong. We're still above the MAs. Volume wasn't bad, but we did come back in below the low of the 131.68 area. So, I guess it closed right on the money. I would have to measure that out. But again, tried to pop up, slowly came back in. Again, nothing wrong with this. So you got to respect it. You're still above the MAs. You start slipping below the 20, fill the gap, and then start coming down. Then we'll wait for pattern. If you're bullish, you need to pop through the all-time high, 132.41, and continue up. Next week, we'll put a little bit pieces of the puzzle together and take it from there. The DIA. DIA, again, closed right on top of the 20 MA. Great stance, bullish still, chopping around, slightly bearish, but nothing wrong again. Still above the MAs. We get below the MAs, come back down this gap, then we'll talk and see where this thing can possibly go. You still have some trend lines. I'm going to do some work this weekend to see what possibly I can find on these charts. But again, nothing wrong. Still at the all-time highs. Let's see if we can continue up and get through the 211.59 area if you're bullish, and then maybe you make a run for the 215. If you're bearish, you got to get below this 20 MA and then curl down from there, or go down from there. Weekly chart, same thing. A couple little dojis here. Nice pop up off this bullish consolidation. We were kind of making a rounded pattern here, but right there, popped it up, got above the all-time high, clicked over, and then boom, off to the races. So, got to respect it. Still above the MAs, a little bit stretched. I'd expect a pullback possibly next week or the following week. But again, we'll take these markets one day at a time and see what it gives us. IYT. IYT, on the other hand, we closed right on top of that big trend line. On the daily, you can see it a little bit better. But you have the trend line. You also had the 20 MA on the weekly chart. That's what's holding this thing up now. If we go to the daily, same thing, up into the highs, down, up into the highs, down a little bit, up into the highs, tries to break out, brings it right back down. This is a slight bearish pattern below the MAs, holding on to this trend line. This trend line cracks this low. You know, I still think we're going to 151 down in this area, but we'll have to take it one step at a time, see what they give us next week. For all I know, we come off these lows and support areas, we come back in, maybe pierce the gap, go to this pivot, bounce right up. If you're bullish, you need to get back above the MAs here, the 20 and the 50, and then continue up, and we'll go from there. And then, you know, also it's got to make a run. I'd like to see more volume pushing up. If you're bearish, you want to see this thing pretty much gap below this and just keep going. We get below these pivots, this pivot here around the 160.74, then I think we're going downtown to the 200 moving average. The 200 moving average we haven't touched since it's not even on here, so we haven't touched in a while. So let's see if we could come back down here. Usually it does, but again, got to keep an eye on it. It could get, you know, markets are giving us not a lot right now. A couple pullbacks, a couple, you know, a little bit up move. But with the light volume, it's not giving us much. We did have options X week, so, you know, there's a little shenanigans going on with GS, Apple at the end of the day, JPM was pulling back, so you got to keep an eye on all that stuff. But I'm thinking institutional money needed some of these stocks to close at certain prices to pay less of the option premium, in my opinion, of course. Let's go to the USO. USO again just got back, you know, filled the gap down in here, had a nice 1-day bounce, or actually 2-day if you include the day it hit the gap fill, right back up. Now it's consolidating a slight bullish pattern, but overall it's still slightly bearish as well. So you got, you know, at this point, I think you have a more chance of moving down, but if they set up in a bullish pattern, it could pop up one more time, go into the area of resistance, and then for the next leg down. If it does come right back in, fill the gap, go to the all-time low, I still think we're coming in. You know, we have a pivot here, and we still have a gap fill around 987. So you got to keep an eye on those two, and then you have double bottom around 956. So we're going to keep an eye on this pattern, see what we do. Do we retrace up or do we come back down? Right now, we are short oil, so we're riding it down. We did cover most of the SCO or sell most of the SCO trade. Once it hit the 200 moving average, we started stepping out. So we have a quarter position of the SCO and a quarter position of the USO as it's coming down. If it comes down to here, maybe the 927 area, we might actually step up and buy this thing. But again, one day at a time, we'll see what the charts give us. Oops, we want the weekly chart on this. Weekly chart, USO. Again, you know, I mean, it's not a disaster. We had a pretty nice sell-off last week. And, you know, for me, with the USO selling off like that, we are still below this trend line, which is pretty big, but we did hold gap fill. Slight tail here on the weekly. Let's see if we get some follow through back up to the moving averages. If we just do a quick retrace and come back down, I'm still thinking 956 and lower prices, and, you know, we'll take it from there. You got some pivots here. You got a low pivot, you know, on the all-time low at the 52-week low at 767. So on this one day at a time, until it gives us a pattern and tells us what to do. If it will tell us that we should cover our oil trades, then we will, and we'll wait for the next move up and possibly short. I'm hoping it goes down into these areas here where we could possibly pick it up and go long. So, well, you know, again, OPEC's chattering, lip service from the Yellen, central bankers. You know what? Take these markets one day at a time. Let's look at the UUP. Dollar was weak. They had a pullback off the central banks, off Janet Yellen's meeting. 2 days. Well, you know, pretty much central banks came in and then pretty much paused right here. There's a gap fill down here, but let's wait for pattern. We'll see if this sets up and maybe retraces back into the moving averages once they come curling down. If it does, then we'll see if it pushes it back down or does it pop back above and continue going. Right now, still nothing wrong. Had a nice sell bar here with some continuation, but it pretty much stalled out today. We do have a gap fill, like I said, down in this area, and then we also have the 200 moving average. So we have a lot to contend with that's coming up, so you have to keep an eye on that. But, you know, at this point, you know, it's only 1 penny up, nothing crazy. Now it's chopping around. Let's see what pattern this one gives us, and we'll take it from there. Weekly chart, same thing. Boom. I think, this one's looking a little more bearish and starting to play out a little bit. So let's keep an eye on this. If this starts attacking the 25.66, I think it's going to come down, fill the gap at 25.59, and then continue down lower, maybe, 50 MA down in this way. You have some trend lines. But ultimately, this one can come back down to 24 bucks, 23 bucks if they really want to get this thing going, the central banks. Just dump it down, dollar up or dollar down, oil up and gold up. And for me, I'm thinking if this goes down and oil goes up, it's not part of the plan, guys. So, I'm thinking this was a shallow retrace. It's going to come back in and go possibly up. But again, nothing really telling us anything right now other than a little bit shallow pullback on the UUP, which is the dollar chart. The gold, GLD. So we talked about the weekly. We wanted it to close above the... So at this point, I'm liking what I'm seeing on the gold chart here. Excuse me, I was gagging there a little bit. Allergies are getting to me. Everything's blooming out here in Phoenix. So, but again, I like the fact that we got back above the 20 MA, and it pretty much screamed above, above that area. I wish we would have closed above this blue line, but hey, I'll take it for what it is. We talked about the 20 MA last week, and that's exactly what we wanted to see. Let's go to the daily. Daily closed pretty much right on top of the 20 MA, so I would have loved a little bit higher. But again, we had some resistance coming in here, even from yesterday. We had a nice move up, another gap up, a little bit of a pause day. Let's see what kind of a pattern this gives us before it starts moving up, or does it just come slip, fill the gap, and come right back down, or start heading for lower prices? Not really sure with this one. Central bankers with the dollar down, oil, gold up. That's what it seems to be doing to me. But one day at a time, guys. So far, this put two pieces of the puzzle. Let's see if we could get another week or two consolidation and then up. Like I said, does it come back in? Does it go up? But I want to stay above if you're bullish, I want to stay above the MAs to continue up. If you're bearish, you want we want this to come right back down, fill the gap, and continue on its way lower. And let's go into the Jnug. A lot of people have been asking me about this one, so I've been doing it on my daily videos. I put a dollar sign in there. JNUG. So again, we talked about this gap fill. You got technicians buying there. They're selling up here. Get the quick pullback. They're probably buying in here. As long as we're making higher lows, this one's been okay. Can't complain. Had a nice pullback in the last couple days, but gold has stayed strong. So stick with this. If we get a pop on gold, I think this thing can go right through these moving averages and continue higher. What we're looking for in a bullish matter, you got to get above the MAs here, period. If it stays below there, we're going to wait for pattern, see what this thing does, or does it retrace, never take out these lows, and then go right back up. If you're bearish, you need to take out these lows. You have a couple of gap fills down in here to fill. Well, one gap fill down here. We did fill the gap down there. Then you have double pot at bottom right around 383, 382 area. If it does head down into this area, then I will possibly be a buyer of Jnug. But again, one day at a time, guys. Let it, do its thing. We did come up into resistance here. That's why we pulled back. We had the 20 MA, $8 even number, and boom. And plus, if you bought down here on this day and we got this 2-day pop, how do you not sell it up there? It went from 6 to 8, boom, out. Great trading vehicle right now. 5 to 7, pulls back, 5 or 6 to 8, pulls back, buy it again, but again, needs to stay above this line to continue going up. So watch for that. If it makes a new low down in here, that could possibly be a little bit weak. Let's go to the weekly. Weekly, same thing, 20 MA. That's where we pulled back. But this is a little bit more bearish here. Let's see. This on the weekly's got to get back up to 20. If we get above that on a close on next Friday, then I could think we could continue up easily to 1425. But let's take this one day at a time, guys, and see what happens. Again, nothing wrong. Making higher lows, kind of sticking it out. But again, this thing just comes in. When gold comes in, this thing says nighty-night. So just be careful. Don't load the house. Take it one day at a time and go from there. All right, guys, that's it for this week. It's Friday, St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Hopefully everybody had a good trading week. We did a couple live sessions. Going to be looking to do more. Again, go to my website, StockBookie.com. Sign up for our stuff, for all these videos, live sessions, and all that good stuff. Thanks again for watching. God bless. See you on the charts.